Count?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey everybody, it's John Lemazny. I'm here with Sean Petrosky, and we're the customer and the service. This is episode 40. Is that right, Sean?
That's right, episode 40.
Episode 40. Yay! So, how you doing, Sean?
I'm doing pretty good. It's been a long time. I couldn't even tell you when the last episode was. Um, it's probably been close to a year, I would guess, right?
Close to a year, probably three-quarters of a year.
So that's a pretty long time. I don't think either one of us anticipated taking a break like that.
No, we had a lot of changes too.
A lot of big changes. May 9th was our last episode.
Wow, that's crazy.
So almost a year. Um, so yeah, new job for me since our last episode. I've left Princeton. I'm now working for IBM in the Watson division.
And congratulations.
Thank you. And I've been doing that since July. And you're also in new work as well, correct?
Yeah, I'm doing all kinds of stuff, but I've been focusing mostly on working with Pearson recently to do video production.
That's great. I'm a big. I've used Pearson in the past with my teaching. They're one of the better publishing companies I've worked with. So.
I agree. I love the work that they do, and I've gotten to know them pretty well, and they treat me right.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. So I think it's probably best if we kind of confess that we got the ball rolling because we got a tweet last week from a gentleman who works for Ninja Forms, who was basically saying, "I'm late to the customer and the service party. Is the train going to keep a rolling?" So it was funny that before this guy reached out to me on Twitter, you and I were having conversations of getting things started again, and I think that was kind of the kick in the butt we needed to really go. So
yeah, and this has always been one of my favorite properties that I'm a part of. Like, having an opportunity to talk to you about things always makes me feel better about sort of my understanding of this part of our work.
I had a conversation with my cousin this week, and my cousin is he's an entrepreneur who's got his hands in many different businesses, and he's primarily focused on technology and within the bowling industry right now. And we had a really great conversation about the challenges and troubles that face the bowling industry. And I don't know much about the bowling industry. I know a few things, but not much. But he's definitely an expert. And he was explaining to me that the biggest problem that faces your local lane, not your family fun center or your Lucky Strike, but your local, like your Slocums in Ewing or your Curtis Lanes in Ewing, just the local small, 25 to 30 lane bowling alley, is customer service.
Oh yeah.
And that's the challenge. And they're losing business left and right. And I just reinforced for me what we do every time we get together is that regardless of what your industry is, whether it's tech-centric or not, the customer service is paramount to what you do, and there's no industry that's immune to that. We got to spread the word still. The word is not out there enough, and so we got a lot of work to do still.
I agree. And this is probably some of the best work that I think that we do. It is one of those things that I think people think that good customer service is like magic, and of course it's not. It's planned and it's studied and it's an effort in making sure that things are right. And there's so many options now for any business that you have to choose ways to serve your customers differently than just the default.
Yeah, you're 100% right. And there's been a lot of changes, some big announcements kind of with service. And I think our first topic tonight, which is smartwatches, while it immediately might not jump out at you as a topic that is concerned with customer service, I would beg to differ. So this was a topic we decided upon back in May. Because I was actually doing some very early kind of exploration into smartwatches a year ago, and I know you were interested in that because you had some interest in some products that were about to hit the market at that time. So this was your idea to have this conversation. So I'd like you to start off with any questions or ideas that have been kicking around your head around the smartwatch space.
Well, I have several things to talk about in regards to this. The first thing is I did not get a smartwatch because while I am often an early adopter, I don't have the assuredness about the product that I want, and I really don't have the flexibility to spend $250 on something that really still needs improvement, or for that matter, $600 on something that still really needs improvement. And I feel like while the market is emerging, even with the presence of the iPhone, the Apple Watch, I'm of course, I'm not going to be interested in that, and I don't think that Android Wear is there yet. And it has a little bit to do with reviews, and a little bit to do with talking with people who have the device, and a little bit to do with the fact that I'm still very dedicated to things like Fitbit. And so I'm still kind of conflicted about what direction to go in, and I think that the Android Wear, which is probably where I will land, it doesn't have a breakthrough battery resolution, utility killer app set that screams at me, I need to have this phone. If Google was to put out, for example, a Nexus-based phone, a Google-based watch, I would probably go for it. But they haven't done that, and I'm not sure why. There's the Motorola 360, which is probably the best of the bunch so far. And if Google was to put out a Nexus-based watch, I would probably buy in. That all said, there's some interesting things happening. I'm very interested to hear your reaction to Tag Heuer coming out with a smartwatch. Have you heard about this?
Yeah, very familiar with it. Yeah.
So I would love to hear you speak to that. And I'm very interested in the functionality, but if I'm going to wear a watch, I want to be able to wear it more than a day. I want to be able to not have to worry about battery life. And I don't care about how thin it is, honestly. I don't care about how small it is. I care about utilitarianism and being able to walk around with it for a long time. And there's just a couple other things that are reservations for me about the platform. And I think that next year at this time, I won't have the same reservations because Google I/O probably will have a major announcement. And I think that they're learning a lot of lessons from the people who have decided that they need that watch right now.
So I don't know that we're gonna get there next year. That's my opinion. And
you want to die on the vine?
No, I don't think it's gonna die on the vine. I think watches are here to stay. I think this is the time. Like, when smartphones became a thing, with the Palm Trio, I think we're kind of in the Palm Trio era of smartwatches right now. In the sense that they appeal to a niche audience, they have a level of functionality that appeals to that niche, but in terms of mainstream adoption or success, it's not there. And the weird thing is so my first smartwatch that I ever had, I bought in around 2007 or 2008, and it was a Swatch. It was called this Spot Watch. It was based on Microsoft's MSN Direct network technology. And basically what it was an LCD watch, Swatch-based LCD watch. It had a screen and about 3 buttons on it. It looked like just any regular kind of Swatch watch. It was the face was a little thicker in terms of its height than a normal watch. And the band itself was an antenna, but the band was just like a standard general rubber band. Wasn't anything special about it. So the watch itself was, I wish I still had it, I'm sure I got it somewhere. The watch itself was, for all intents and purposes, from a form factor, still very much a watch. And to me, I think that watch basically tapped into this FM frequency-based data network that Microsoft had. It was called Spot. Was branded as MSN Direct. It didn't use Wi-Fi. It didn't use Bluetooth. Its only communication was through this network, and
Its battery life was probably really good.
it was incredible. I would get a week and a half, 2 weeks on a single charge.
Wow.
And it was, like I said, just a black and white LCD screen. I got news notification headlines. I got sports scores if I needed it. I could get email headers sent to my watch. People could send me instant messages to my watch through Windows Live Messenger. I wasn't able to reply because the network didn't allow for that. But information could be pushed to the phone very easily, and there was different customizations you could do to it. I gotta say that watch, I think there's something about that technology that is missing from a lot of the watches today. I would say that the next closest smartwatch would be the Pebble. I think
Pebble is an industry leader.
The Pebble, I think, has the right idea in the sense that it's sort of e-ink or a LCD kind of based display. I don't know if they're dabbling with a color display at this point in time. I personally think that would be a mistake. I think that long battery life, sort of a notification center. I think the beauty of the Pebble is that it allows for two-way communication, whereas my watch, the old watch, was one-way. So I think the Pebble kind of improves on that capability. That being said, I've never owned a Pebble, and the reason for that is because I was a Windows Phone user, and Pebble was not supported by Windows Phone. So I actually backed another smartwatch, which was called the Martian Passport, which is a Kickstarter I found out about a couple years ago. And their whole thing was, listen, we're going to give you a watch, a core function watch, which had a built-in sort of, it wasn't an LCD, it was kind of an LED screen, very high-res, easy to read, and when people called, it would tell you the name of the person calling. If a text message came through, it would tell you that. You could control different notifications. It would tie into an app on your phone. It would send tweets maybe or Facebook, whatever. There was a connectivity there. And the most importantly, it was a Bluetooth speaker, so you could control your phone if it had voice control, Google Now, Siri, Cortana, through the watch as well. And I would say its implementation was pretty good. The battery life was there. Lasted about a week. But there were just some quirks with it that I didn't like. It didn't integrate with the Windows Phone the way that I wanted it to. My wife at the time was using an iPhone. There was an iPhone app for the watch. It left a lot to be desired. As it was basically a glorified Bluetooth speaker with a screen. And because of that, it just didn't fulfill the needs that I wanted. Which leads me to my current smartwatch, which I have here, which is the Microsoft Band. Now, I bought this in the fall. My wife and I, we basically we sold our Martian watches on eBay to fund our purchase of the Microsoft Band. And I knew the Microsoft Band. For those of you not familiar with it, John, it's very sort of it's a Fitbit kind of jawbone competitor, in the sense that it's got its tremendous amount of sensoring capability for health, fitness, exercise, biking. The list goes on. A tremendous amount of information you can get there. It's platform agnostic. There's an app available for the pairing of that with every platform. It syncs to the cloud. A lot of the complaints that you had about the original Fitbit that you and I both used back in the day are answered with this device. And that's all well and good. I'm all for tracking my steps and seeing how many calories I burned, but that was not my primary need for this device. I was primarily concerned with what's going on in my calendar, what's coming through my email, what texts and phone calls are coming through. And I was looking for additional integration with my phone as well. And I would say that, for the most part, the Band, is giving me what I'm looking for from a smartwatch. But something's just not right. I don't feel like I want to wear it every day. The problem is the form factor is not that great. As you can see, it's kind of thick and chunky. As a watch, if you wear it, our friend Shane Smith wears one as well. He's in the habit of wearing it like upside down on your wrist so that you look at it this way,
Right.
as opposed to, and the other thing is the screen is flat so it doesn't curve the wrist. So some just design choices that I think prevent me from wanting to wear it as a daily driver. And but like when I go out for the day, like if Crystal and I are going to IKEA or we're going to be out walking around all day, I'll throw it on and it's on for me the whole day. And in those regards, but in terms of a daily watch, if I'm traveling for business or I'm going, to visit my parents or something, I'm not putting it on. The technology is awesome. The sensors, the capability, the screen, the touch. They've even integrated a keyboard so you can respond to text messages, and you wouldn't think it works, but it works amazingly. It's all there. It's great, but the design, it's not there. So I'm in a place where there's no smartwatch that really is hitting the sweet spot for me. And maybe it's a Pebble, maybe it's a Motorola 360, maybe it's a Samsung Gear. I don't know, but I'll tell you one thing: it's definitely not an Apple Watch.
So, I mean, what it makes me think of is this really great theory that I studied in pursuit of my master's called the theory of technology adoption. And I think we've talked about it before. It's easily one of my favorite theories. And what it is a series of questions that you can ask a group of people who are being introduced to a change in technology to see whether or not it will be successful or not. So, for example, let's say that we're rolling out, a new learning management system at a school. We could put out a survey asking several questions and determine certain things about the potential audience for this thing, and determine whether or not we should just stay with what we have because it does everything that we need and it will make people happy to stay where we are, or if we would improve greatly our productivity or our throughput or our general, love of the service if we change to this other service. So when I consider a new technology, I often take this theory into account for myself. And I ask myself questions like, does this new product give me significant improvement over the functionality that I currently have? Does the current technology that I'm using meet all of my needs comparative to the new technology? Am I sufficiently capable of, making use of the new technology, or will it have a high learning curve? And in the case of the watch, really the thing that I use most often outside of my phone is my Fitbit, right? So this is my Fitbit here. And just the fact that I don't have to change the battery, the fact that it automatically synchronizes, like whenever I walk into a room, it synchronizes with my phone. It does everything that I need. And the rest of the functionality, because it's present on my phone, it's hard to justify that, in my case, like $250 price tag of the watch, because I hear about all of the things that, comparative to my Fitbit, are problematic, such as battery life, or synchronization problems, or the fact that the sensors are not as sensitive as a Fitbit. And for me, it's purely about replacing my Fitbit, because I wouldn't both use the watch and use a Fitbit. I would use one or the other.
Right.
And so if I'm replacing my Fitbit, there's a whole bunch of downsides for me of moving from a Fitbit to this watch. Even if I move to the Fitbit watch, I probably wouldn't move to the Fitbit watch because it would be similar in price, but it wouldn't have all the extra functionality that an Android Wear watch has. So I have a lot of conflicts with why I wouldn't go to a watch. And if I was going to, it would be because Google had given it the same backing of all their Nexus devices. And so until that happens, or until my Fitbit dies or gets washed or whatever, I can't see myself moving to that, and it's a shame because I think that there are probably some benefits that I would see in productivity or being able to be more informed or whatever. But I'm not the kind of person who sits down at a meeting and puts his phone on the table. And I've always been a little bit, even from like way back when we were at Ryder, I was always surprised when I went into a meeting and everybody would throw their phone on the table. And I never really knew what that was about. And sometimes it was about showing off what phone you have, and sometimes it was about keeping track of what's going on outside of the meeting. And I always sort of liked the idea that I was like emphatically focused on the meeting. And I used to wear a watch, or just the regular watch, and I used to look at my watch all the time. And I think that what it would do would be to turn me into one of those people that was always, out of touch with what was going on in front of me and instead engaging with my watch. Because my phone is in my pocket most of the time, especially when I'm not around people, I feel like I'm typically more engaged, whereas this might actually take me away from. We haven't really talked about, I guess, the specific customer service aspects, but there are a lot in a watch. Not only in the way that the service is being provided to you, in other words, it improves potentially the service that your phone offers to you as a customer, but also the way that you offer customer service to others. If you're distracted, as I would be, that makes me less of a customer service specialist. It makes me less of the server that I want to be.
I mean, the other thing you could think about too is, and this is one of the advantages that the iWatch kind of has, is that, it's providing better customer service in that you can use the watch to pay for things, or initiate different services like Uber or, interfacing with your bank, right? So this is a customer service angle that Apple is taking with their smartwatch that all these other watches that we've talked about are not. They don't have these capabilities, right? So the fact that I can walk into a store, not have to worry about having a phone or a credit card. I can just put my watch on the contactless payment sensor, and I'm paying for my meal or I'm paying for my furniture or whatever it is. That's a level of service, right? And those organizations, retailers that provide the interface that is necessary for an Apple Watch to do that type of transaction, they're providing good service. So I look at that, as I give Apple credit for, everybody has their phone with them, but also, if you don't have to take your phone out and just use the watch, I mean, that's an added advantage. So I do give Apple credit for integrating that payment capability in the watch as well as the phone.
Yeah, Apple Pay is a runaway hit, from what I understand.
Yeah, but it's no different than what Google Wallet's been doing for years. And
except for adoption. I mean, adoption has been amazing.
Yeah, but it's just NFC contactless payments. It's not.
Well, except that Apple has certain things going on within the protocol that are Apple specific.
In what regards?
I've read about this. So there are certain things that are going on where early on there was like a backlash to Apple Pay because there were certain vendors who were focusing on Apple Pay, and there were certain things missing from the NFC standard or added to the NFC standard that precluded the Android platform that had embedded NFC from making the same payment over a different protocol, over a different payment protocol. Like, for example, if we have a kiosk in like a 7-Eleven,
right,
and an iPhone works there, there's no guarantee that an Android phone would work in the same way.
I gotcha. So you're telling me that Apple Pay, while it is NFC based, is not necessarily using the same standards that.
It's like NFC and then some.
Okay.
From what I understand, now I having not owned an iPhone and not done a side-by-side test, I'm just going on some of the complaints that I heard early on, and they may have actually resolved them. But certainly, it behooves them as a company to try to limit people to just their ecosystem. And as we see in all kinds of ways, Apple is very good at locking down a market for whether it be apps or whatever. I mean, I get annoyed now when I look through my email because one of my favorite services will say, hey, check out our new app, only available for iOS. And yes, I understand that it may take an extra developer or another part of the team to like be able to make the app available for Android. But given the install base of Android, you know, it's really just a we support iPhone statement. And I mean, I'm sure you run into this with Windows Phone, or maybe you don't. But and you're going to tell me about your migration back to Android. But that is aggravating for me when a service that obviously has the ability and the coffers to go ahead and make an Android app at the same time as an Apple app doesn't.
Yeah, we can talk about that whole situation in a little bit because I got a lot to say on that. But bringing it back to the watch topic, you know, it's just I think you and I are both on the same page in the sense that, you know, while I'm willing to shell out a couple $100 to try what sounds like the new best thing in terms of watch, you know, you're not, but we're both in the same sense that, you know, it's still not there yet. And I would say that, and you know, there's a part of me too that there's aspects of smartphone usage that I don't get that I used to get from my old Palm phones. You know, my Trios and my Kyoceras. You know, they are phones that I had back in, man, I'm trying to remember how long ago. We're talking 2002, 2003 was my first Palm phone. That was 2002. And no, that's not true. Yeah, it was 2002. I had a Kyocera 6035, the very first Palm cell phone. And those phones, there's just something about those phones to me that hasn't been duplicated since. And, you know, smartphones can do so much more now than they could do back then. But in terms of a user experience and a total cost of ownership and a happiness factor and service factor, those phones provided us an experience to me that few devices have ever offered since then. And, you know, I'm talking about watches, I'm talking about cell phones, I'm talking about any portable device, you know, and it's a shame. You know, I don't know what the magic was back then. It's been so long since I've used those devices. Maybe it was the fact that I could take out a stylus and write with graffiti a text message or an email. And, you know, I was a big fan of graffiti. I always thought that that was a really natural, quick way to bang out a lot of text in a really quick.
Did you know that you can get a replacement keyboard interface for Android that gives you graffiti input?
No, I did not know that, but that is not a surprise. But I would need, if I would need a Galaxy Note or something, I guess, in order to get a stylus and start writing that way.
I don't know how well it would work with your finger, but
yeah, but that's great to hear. I mean, I'm happy to hear that graffiti still lives because I was a huge fan of graffiti and graffiti too.
I forget what they call it. Of course, they can't call it graffiti because it's like that's a palm-based thing. But
yeah. But you know, so the jury's still out on the watch, and you know, the first reviews of the iWatch are coming out today. I read a couple of them. The consensus seems to be that performance on them is very slow. Because the app experience does not live within the watch and is tethered to the phone, the app experience is also very slow as well. It sounds like there's a lot of potential there. But it may be that the battery life is also a problem. I heard a lot of complaints in my reviews on that. More so than any of the devices we've talked about. The Pebble, my Microsoft Band gives me at least a day and a half, and I know people were giving the Microsoft Band a hard time about that. That 36 hours was not a long time, and people are saying very adamantly that the iWatch barely is a day. So I'm really curious to see what the backlight shows there.
And I think that that's a factor because if you have if you think about phones, now we plug in our phones every night,
Hmm.
and the thing is that, if you go back to a wall-style phone, a landline, which of course I don't have. Do you have a landline?
No.
Yeah. Uh, we never had to worry about that before, and then smartphones came along. Well, I mean, first there were flip phones and all those, but we had all of a sudden to worry about battery life, and we got over it. And I think the same transition has to happen with watches, I guess. We're just going to get used to the idea of, oh, but I do have a Qi wireless power supply now, in part due to your recommendation, and I love it.
It's the best.
It is the best. I need to get like 6 of them.
I actually have if you want some extras, I'm sitting on about 3 or 4 of them that I can't get rid of.
Oh, I'll buy them off you.
But I got them for 99 cents each, so I'll just...
Get out of here. Yeah, I'll definitely.
Cool. All right, we'll talk about that later. That's the thing. Battery life, man, we keep accepting worse and worse battery life. And, those phones we're talking about, I see every now and then Microsoft announces a new dumb phone, which is basically a Nokia phone, right?
Right.
And they talk about, 30 days of standby time. You know what I mean?
It's amazing.
Where is that? Where's our 30 days of smartphone standby time?
So, I was actually watching a video last night on graphene. You remember graphene?
No.
So graphene is that thing, I don't know if they won a Nobel Prize or what, but it's essentially graphite laid out in a 1 atom height.
Okay.
And it's this incredibly strong surface that you can see through. And it's graphite. And so not graphite, carbon atom, all connected.
Okay.
And they said that once they get through production issues and they can make it fairly easily, which is just a matter of time, that it will revolutionize lots of different technologies that we are struggling with today. First and foremost being power supply. And they're talking about how, it's something like 10 times as 10 times as strong as copper for sending an electric current, and just all kinds of really interesting things that if we can get the manufacturing part taken care of, that we could have batteries that would allow for like electric cars to be like race cars.
Hey, I'm all for that. Let's get that going.
Yeah. So I mean, I'll have to send you the video, but
Please do.
yeah, there's a graphene video on YouTube that I was watching last night that is more or less like a documentary about it, and some amazing stuff awaits us.
Good. Anything else you want to say about smartwatches?
No, I think we could move on to topic 2.
All right. So, as you mentioned before, I moved back to the Android platform about 2 weeks ago. After using Windows Phone exclusively for 3 years, I decided enough was enough. And
what led you to this conclusion?
well, I wrote a really long blog post about it. So for those of us that want to dive further into detail beyond this conversation, you can go to seanpetrowski.net and just read the most current post where I kind of lay out my reasoning, which I'll do my best to explain here.
How did I miss that? Do you not have a subscription capability?
It's a WordPress site, so...
Do you have a subscribe? No.
I have an RSS feed.
You have an RSS feed, but I know completely about what you do. All right, I'll have to pay better attention.
It's okay. Because I don't really blog that often anymore. So when I do, there's something really serious going on. So That's basically what my blog is for. It's like when 140 characters are not enough, and I really am motivated to get my thoughts written down. So the problem for me was not the hardware, not the operating system, not the camera. I mean, everything about Windows Phone I loved and still do love.
I heard the camera was amazing, in fact.
Yeah, I mean, I had a really good camera. My wife's Windows Phone has the best camera still on the smartphone market, the Lumia 1020, the 41 megapixel camera. Still, there's no camera on the market that can compete with that. And the problem for me was the app gap, as it is known. And it appeared for like the last 2 years that Windows Phone was finally breaking through, and developers were starting to not only when they're launching iPhone apps or Android apps, they were going to also launch a Windows Phone app simultaneously or shortly thereafter. And that seemed to be the case, and it seemed like the app gap was over. Now, over the past 6 months or so, we've seen an issue where companies are pulling their apps from the Windows Phone store. They're not updating their apps. They're just sitting there broken. There's a lot of different scenarios that are facing users of Windows Phone apps. Another one is that features are not being kept in parity with the iPhone or Android versions of the app. The Windows Phone app lags behind, often for many, many months. The Twitter app is a perfect example. There's many features of the Twitter app that did not come right away to the Windows Phone version. You'd have to wait 6 or 9 months, and then it would come in. So as you can see, like, very frustrating. And, one company that has been really good about supporting Windows Phone lately is Foursquare, with its Foursquare and Swarm apps, which are apps that I use every day. And I gotta say, I gotta give them a lot of credit. They did a really great job continually updating Swarm and Foursquare and bringing new features to it and trying to keep that parity on level. And they did a pretty good job, better than most providers. But at the end of the day, the issue is that companies are, like I said, abandoning their apps altogether, or actually going out of their way to getting them pulled. And so you have to turn to third-party apps if they exist at all, and that's frustrating. That's frustrating, and that was a big kind of wake-up call for me, and for my wife as well. My wife has decided she's going back to iPhone, and the straw that broke the camel's back for her is that she's a Bank of America customer, and Bank of America said, okay, we're done, no more Windows Phone app, so my wife could no longer deposit checks or transfer money. All the things that you need to do from a mobile app couldn't be done anymore because they said, okay, we're done. And that's unfortunate. And that's really bad, customer service. You have this platform that is the third platform. It's popular in major parts of the world, even over iPhone in some places. And it doesn't get the development respect that it should get. And I get it. It's single-digit market share. I understand that. But that's still millions of people that you're turning away. Now, Microsoft is saying that Windows 10 is going to fix all that because it's the universal app platform. You develop an app for Windows 10, that means it'll work on the phone, a tablet, or a laptop or desktop. And we've been waiting for this for a long time. We had these conversations before Windows 8 even existed. We knew this was coming. In my opinion, it's taken too long.
But I have to say, though, and you've heard my complaints about Microsoft. It's hard to complain about Microsoft at this time. They're doing interesting things as far as spreading the capability to get their operating system on as many devices with as little a threshold as possible. The fact that I can install Windows 10 eventually, it hasn't happened yet, but I could install Windows 10 on my Raspberry Pi is pretty interesting. Or I could root my Android-based phone and install Windows 10 potentially, or Windows Phone on that, is also a very interesting possibility.
Yeah, and there's even been talk of Windows being open sourced recently. I don't know if you were paying attention to that too.
I've heard about that, and it's an amazing departure from Ballmer/Gates, but Obviously, they must have some word on whether that happens or not.
Yeah, I mean they're still on the board, so I mean that's the thing. So like I said, facing these, Windows isn't Windows 10. I'm sorry, Windows Phone is not Microsoft's. It's not Microsoft's fault that I'm leaving Windows Phone. It's really app developers' fault. The apps are what are letting Windows Phone down. And I'm been thinking a lot about this universal app solution, and everybody's saying it's going to be the fix, right? If a developer only has to write one app, that's it. Like, why wouldn't anybody develop an app? And that's true. So if I'm Twitter or Facebook or whoever, if I'm writing an app for Windows, that's great. I'll do it, and maybe I'll make it available on a tablet or a phone as well, or vice versa. But at the end of the day, am I going to keep the features in parity with iOS and Android? Am I going to support the app forever? Maybe the market share won't be large enough, and I'll pull back. There's a lot of questions that I have, and what I've seen with Windows 8 apps, which are the apps that we're talking about for Windows 10, right? They're the same apps. The Windows 8 apps that are available through the Windows desktop store, they're not lighting up. There's no innovation really going on there. Sure, there's Foursquare. Sure, there's Facebook. Sure, there's Twitter. But again, the features are not being kept in line. The updates are not there. And there's really nobody's really making any money off of Windows 8 apps for the computer. So why would Windows 10 be any different? That's the question I kept asking myself, and at the end of the day, the decision that I made was that I don't think the universal app is going to save Windows Phone.
Well, I'll tell you what would move me to a Windows-based phone. And I could certainly see this happening. Since the desktop and the phone are using essentially the same operating system, and all of the apps will run on any of those devices, and all that is limited is the limitation of the resources for that particular device, then like Ubuntu Phone promised, and like Android has demonstrated the ability to do, but hasn't really done it, if we get to a point where my computer is my phone, and for many of us that's already the case, right? Your computer represents everything, all of your computer needs. But if I can take the phone, put it into a dock, and have a powerful, dual screen display, then I'm there. And I can't do that right now. I can't take my Android phone. The closest I can do is a Chromecast.
Right.
There's a lag between my experience on my right in front of me and the experience on the device. If it works well on a Chromecast screen, like my television, and with speakers, it's because I've given control over to that device. I'm no longer controlling it from my device in front of me. But if I can plug it into a dock and have a keyboard and mouse connected to it, and have a display across the room, or have a display be a full display like I have here, and I can run desktop-level applications, which I can't do on Android, because Android doesn't have a desktop equipment. It is a desktop, but it's not. It's certainly not something I would do like quote-unquote real work on. We're not there yet on Android, and Ubuntu promised it, but Ubuntu only has one phone, and it's not selling well. So if Microsoft moves Windows to all devices, and it's a similar experience on all devices, and I can take my phone and plug it into a dock and have that, and be able to run Inkscape, either from my phone, from my screen, from my PC, from my whatever has the most RAM or whatever I'm next to at that moment, then I'm there. It doesn't matter what the operating system is anymore, especially if they go open source with it. I don't even have a philosophical difference with it.
Well, I think Microsoft will be the first to get there.
I think they've been positioning themselves, and I thought it was silly at first. I was like, why would they make the operating system into a phone operating system? And they're not. They're making all operating systems into one.
Right.
It's brilliant.
Windows 10 is still going to be my operating system of choice for computing, for sure. and definitely, you know, I have a Surface Pro 3. I have a Windows desktop. I have a, you know, we have another Windows tablet in the house. So I'm ready to go. When Windows 10 is available, it'll be installed on all my Intel devices, and we're ready to go. It's just for the phone, I don't know. The jury's out. And the reason it made switching back to Android so easy was because of Microsoft's support of the platform in the last 2 years. You know, since Satya Nadella came on board, they have really made sure to be a platform agnostic company, and in some cases, Windows is even the last platform to get certain services. But I am deep in the Windows ecosystem. I'm a OneDrive user. I'm an Office 365 subscriber. You know, I use OneNote. I use Microsoft Office. I mean, everything. I'm Microsoft. You know, not because of the Windows Phone, because those are the products that I find are superior in those spaces. And the fact that I can get all those services, you know, Xbox Music is another one that I use. All those services that I subscribe to through Microsoft. The fact that right away, when I got my Galaxy S6 in the mail, with this I didn't even have to install anything. They all came pre-installed because of a new agreement with Microsoft. But the fact that I could just go and log in with my Microsoft account and all my stuff was there was great. I mean, that made the switch to Android all the more easier for me. Yeah, I didn't lose any functionality in that regard at all.
Have you heard about what's going on with what is the name? Oh, CyanogenMod.
Say that again. I couldn't hear you that well.
Have you heard about what's going on with Cyanogen?
Yes, very. Yeah, I'm paying a lot of attention to that.
So Cyanogen just got like $1 million, and the idea is that they're working actively to fork Android.
Yeah, Oxygen OS.
Yeah, and the result is that they're going to rely heavily on third-party services that Google would normally offer the service. And I think that a lot of that is going to come from Microsoft. And it's very, very interesting. I mean, it's philosophically I'm a bit opposed, but at this point, it's not like Google is particularly open source. So I don't know, you know, if I could migrate to some other service, maybe I would.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what happens with that because, you know, the OnePlus One was a phone I considered going to, but there was a lot of different things that prevented me from doing that. And also the uncertainty of the access to the Google Play Store with that. You know, I understand it can be done, but you have to kind of hack around or something to get it to work.
I think if you're going for the OnePlus One, you're really moving away from the Google ecosystem.
Yeah, that's, you know, I need, like I said, the app gap is my problem. I don't want to be back in another platform where I don't have access to apps. So
if you are into the Amazon thing, you of course can install the Amazon app Store very easily.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I'm not an Amazon phone person either.
No, I'm saying, like, if I, like, for example, I have another CyanogenMod on one of my old phones that's just, like, Wi-Fi based.
Right.
And if I need an application, I use it for my alarm clock. If I want an application on that phone, I don't use Google Play, I use the Amazon App Store.
Right, because it's just an APK you install. Right, I got it.
APK to install.
Right. So, I mean, you know, when the other thing that made switching easier was I got a Google Nexus 7 for Christmas. You know, I have, like I said, I have a Surface Pro 3. I have an original Surface. I love them to death. I think they're excellent devices. They're really, in my opinion, laptop replacements.
Yeah.
They're not really tablets. I just wanted something that was larger than my phone that I could use for quick web browsing, quick kind of social media stuff. Maybe some apps, you know, video streaming, that type of thing. Right. So I asked for a Nexus 7 at Christmas. I got it. I love it. It's a great tablet. It does exactly what I need it to do. It's reliable. It's the pure Google experience. It's updated. I have access to my apps. And, you know, that was my first foot back into Android. And, you know, to see what was going on, because I haven't used Android since... I was on the original Verizon Droid, right? So we're talking Android 2.4, I think, was the last, or 2.3. And a lot's happened since then, and I've kind of stayed on top of it, but I haven't used it intimately. and I liked it. I liked what was going on, and I thought the operating system had matured in a lot of good ways, had streamlined itself in a lot of good ways. I was able to not able to fully disable a lot of the Google stuff that I don't use, but I was able to ignore it, right? And so when I learned about the Galaxy S6 from Samsung coming out, I knew all the stuff about Samsung in the past, the bloatware, the extra crap that they put on there, all the TouchWiz interface, all the complaints.
I prefer Nexus because all that's going on.
Right. We all know the complaints about Samsung, and everything that I was reading about the S6 before it came out was this is the new Samsung. It's not going to be any of that. It's preloaded with Microsoft stuff. You can disable 98% of the apps on there if you want. So that's and the camera was really good. So I took the plunge, and I spent a full day and a half getting my phone set up exactly right, which is typical Android. Even when I got my tablet, it was the same thing. It was you got to sit there and you got to go through every setting, and you got to turn off this notification and that notification, and preventing this app from running in the background so you're not killing your back. Like the whole thing. It's like that's the thing that people love about Android, and I like that I have the flexibility to do that.
Yeah, the flexibility it's two-edged sword.
Exactly. It's a lot of work. So the fact that I got this phone and I was able to disable the Gmail app was huge. The fact I was able to disable Google Plus, things I never use anymore, but still have that core Google Play experience with the store and all that. It was big, and so I've had it for a couple weeks. I'm very happy with the device. It's solid. I love the camera. It's quick. I have access to the apps that I need. I don't feel like I'm left behind. Listen, I understand. Like Periscope just launched. Periscope. Everybody's talking about Periscope, and right now it's iOS only. And I get the frustration. It's only a matter of time before Android gets its Periscope app.
That's a perfect example. Everybody's really excited about Meerkat, and it's like I don't know. I can't use it.
Yeah, but the thing is that it's coming to Android. It'll never come to Windows Phone.
Right, but even the fact that it's coming to Android, it aggravates me because Android in many ways is a larger platform. Why would we wait?
Right, I understand that.
I can understand from the market share size perspective why Microsoft Phone might not be the first platform that they go to.
Right.
But I cannot understand why Android would be second best. I can understand it being simultaneous deployment. I cannot understand why they would make us wait.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm confused by that too. And that's just, that's not good service from a provider standpoint. You should be supporting, I guess my understanding of the numbers is that, the numbers for, if you look at the United States only, the numbers for iOS versus Android is maybe it's a little more equal footing, but maybe iOS having more devices. I'm not 100% sure on that. I guess I'm just talking the United States only. We know throughout the world it's not even an argument. Android is the de facto standard platform. But there's more money to be made, I think, by supporting iOS first. The customers, the people are more quick to buy things, try things. The design aspect of it is slicker typically than what Android represents. There's arguments that could be made that I would understand. I wouldn't support them, but I can understand why a developer would go iOS first.
I've heard this argument too, and I hear it. It doesn't make me feel better about it.
No, you're right. I get you. 100% right. So I'm back.
For now.
For now. Well, we're supposed to get, that was another issue with me was Windows Phone hadn't announced any flagship devices. Everything that was being announced over the last 2 years were mid-range phones or low-end phones. Seems like every 2 months there's a new phone coming out from Microsoft, but it's not a phone that would replace my, I had a $400 or $500 phone, and it, the camera was top-notch, the build quality was top-notch, it was aluminum, it was beautiful to look at. None of the new phones they were releasing were meant to compete at that level, and that was frustrating to me too. We're supposed to get a new one in the fall. I'll be anxiously awaiting that announcement to see what happens. Am I going to jump to it right away? No, because the app issue. So until I see the app issue starting to resolve itself, I'm not even going to think about switching back.
And you also, if you've been following this stuff about CyanogenMod, are you also familiar with Xiaomi?
You were breaking up. I couldn't hear you clearly.
Sorry. If you're familiar with the issues with CyanogenMod, you've been following that in the news, right?
Yes.
And are you also familiar with Xiaomi?
No, that I'm not familiar with.
Xiaomi is a Chinese phone maker, and their phones are slowly making their way to the United States, but they're essentially these beautiful, very often iPhone ripoffs. And the operating system is Android-based.
Mm-hmm.
But it remains to be seen whether it will change to something else with the emergence of Oxygen OS.
That's cool. I think I have heard of this company, and I think Microsoft is actually going to be releasing a Windows 10 ROM for their devices. I think they're the first. They're the first manufacturer that's going to get an official sanctioned Microsoft Windows 10 ROM for their Android phones.
Yeah. Now, I mean, if Xiaomi, did a situation like that, and they made it easily. Like, you can't get it. You can't just go to Best Buy or Amazon and get a Xiaomi phone. You have to get it shipped in, and it's like they don't really have an English distribution for it. And so it's you have a whole bunch of workarounds to work through, and like downloads in order to make it usable for the average American user.
Yeah.
But that all said, it's a beautiful, beautiful set of phones, and so. I've been interested in it ever since I've heard about it, but I'm, of course, waiting until it's easier to get and more designed for this market.
Well, I'll tell you where you can get one right now.
What, you have one?
No, but I know where we could probably get one, right? We can order one right now.
Where?
AliExpress, bro.
Oh, really?
Do you know about AliExpress?
I think we talked about it.
Yeah, AliExpress is the best. We could go there right now. I guarantee you could buy 12 of them. No problem.
Oh, I have to check it out. But I've heard, really nice metal construction, beautiful glass, the whole 9 yards.
Well, I'll definitely be keeping my eye on them for, like I said, the Windows 10 ROM thing, and also because of their hardware design, like you said. So, looking forward to seeing what comes out of that space.
Yeah, they're definitely playing on Apple's success, but.
But who isn't?
Exactly right. Samsung certainly.
Right. So there you go. So that's all I got to say about switching back. If people want to read more about it, I have a lengthier blog post that goes into more detail on my website.
I'm definitely going to read on your blog post about it.
Well, I appreciate that. And I'm sure we'll have more to talk about as I get reacclimated back to the world of Android.
I'm really happy to hear that you have a Nexus 7. I think the Nexus 7 is one of the most beautiful Android experiences that exists.
I'm really disappointed they no longer sell them. And my parents had to get me a refurbished one off of Groupon in order to get me one. So I wish they still made that 7-inch size is that's a sweet spot, and I don't know why everybody's ignoring it. Microsoft just announced a new Surface 3 that is I think it's around 8 or 9 inches, and they originally had plans to release a 6 to 7-inch Surface Mini with a stylus. And that was what I wanted. I wanted a Surface Mini with a stylus. That 7-inch and kind of 6-7 inch is a sweet spot that I want to see more of. And I don't know. The new Nexus is what, 9-10 inches? That's ridiculous. That's too big.
Yeah, they go all over the place, but I think they found some success with the 6-inch, and so and the Note has been really successful. So I think they are going bigger on the tablet size because they went bigger on the phone size, and it worked.
Yeah, I don't see it. Like I said, as someone who's used a 10+ inch tablet for better part of 2-3 years now, nothing beats a 7-inch.
I had a joke once where I sketched somebody holding a poster-sized tablet.
Yeah.
It's not practical.
It's not. Definitely not.
All right, so the other topic we wanted to talk about, I believe, was video as a communication method, which of course is kind of meta since we're talking over video.
Right.
But you and I have both sort of encountered this and had some conversations with people talking about how we're moving into video as a preferred communication method, and also because you can leave that trail behind and have most of the cues that you get from an in-person interaction. And so one of the things that I've noticed too is like Facebook is preferring video interactions over photo-based interactions.
Oh, I haven't noticed that. How are they doing that? I haven't seen that.
So there was an announcement where they said that they were going to start to prefer within their algorithm when somebody puts up a video or when somebody puts up a photo.
Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah. So, and so when I like pick up my phone and open up the Facebook app, half of the things that I see are videos being posted.
I've noticed that recently on the Android phone for sure, and it's never something I've noticed before.
And you know, sometimes they autoplay. You know, you'll stop for a second on a post, and it'll start to play. It doesn't have the audio, but I think it's interesting. We have these devices which are capable, obviously, of the bandwidth and the processor necessary to show a video like that. And so, you know, I think the fact that we have been working in video bodes well for us. And certainly the work that I've been doing recently is video-based. And the conversations I've had with those people is that, you know, there's an effort, a specific push to move towards video as a communication channel over other forms, such as print.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, I think if we had the ability to read the tea leaves, so to speak, a couple years ago, and I don't think anybody really saw it, and I think, like you said, people are starting to see it now. And the precursor for me was how people were using YouTube, like, how do I change my oil? How do I put up new gutters? How do I, you know, that type of video education has been going on YouTube for years. How do I beat this level in a video game? How do I beat an entire video game? You know, these Uplay videos. It's all been sort of predicting this move into video communication, video education. The writing was on the wall. I just don't know. I don't know that many people saw it.
It has so much to do with how easy it is to do. The fact that within, you know, a minute you and I can start a video broadcast is kind of amazing.
But the thing is it's been this easy, and this is kind of something that sort of drives me crazy about Periscope and Meerkat getting this buzz right now.
Yep.
With live stream, I had on my old Droid, I remember back in 2007 or whatever year the Droid came out, during a snow day, installing the live stream app on my Droid, my Motorola Droid with Android 2.1 or 2.2 on it, firing up the live stream app and broadcasting a test broadcast of the view of the snow from out my window, and anybody could go to the live stream website, see that live as I was broadcasting it. That was 9 years ago, 8 years ago.
Right.
Why are people making such a big deal about Periscope and Meerkat now? It's just as easy now as it was back then.
Because it's only just as easy for you and me. I think it just became as easy for everybody else.
So everybody else, it took them 7 years to catch up to us.
Well, not even us, but I'm saying, like, you and I are technologists.
That's what I meant.
I used to be responsible for video streaming at Ryder for commencement and those kinds of things, and so there was a lot of struggle at that time to do that kind of work because you had to have a server, you had to have a client, you had to have, you know, knowledge of all the various ports. There was a whole bunch of stuff that you had to know. It's the same thing with creating a website. You know, if you needed to know HTML and CSS and Apache and PHP in order to create a website today, it would still be as unique a thing to have a website as it once was.
Right.
But we don't have that anymore. Now it's like you open up an app, you hit record or broadcast, and you go. And it's like all the rest is taken care of for you. It's even the publication of the fact, how do you get to see this video right now? There's a link, and it automatically went up on Twitter, and I didn't have to do any of it.
Right.
And, for the spontaneity of that, it took until now, even Hangouts, which is what we're using, is not especially spontaneous. There's a little bit of a build-up to it.
Right.
And that has stopped many of my clients who are interested in doing this kind of a thing from doing it, because everybody's like, there's a fear associated with it. There's an anticipation that there's going to be a problem, or the anticipation it's going to be difficult because maybe 5 years ago they tried it and it was not as easy as opening up an app and starting it.
Right.
But we're there now, for sure. And this has nothing to do with content. It has nothing to do with planning. It has nothing to do with quality. It has nothing to do with any of the things that are still required in order to gain an audience. And there's something to be said for Snapchat, where we're talking about, a few seconds of video, or Vine, where we're talking about a limited amount of video, and the point is that limit. So it's like if you do a lot of planning for a Vine and you get a really great Vine within those whatever number of seconds it is, then you can get real engagement. And Meerkat is no different, and Periscope is no different. Engagement is amazing because I believe you have to hold on to the video. This is what I've heard. You have to hold on to the video with your finger in order to have it play. And that means that you're not doing anything else. What's that?
The HTC Re.
No, right, but I'm saying on the viewing side.
Oh, well, I'm just saying in order to record, you have to hold the button down.
So that's engagement as far as production is concerned, but I'm talking about from the viewer perspective. Like, if you have somebody and they watched your video, it means they sat there and held their finger on the screen and paid attention to what you said for that length of time. And like from a communication perspective, like how often do you just get to watch one thing? If somebody's watching our podcast, chances are they're watching our podcast, they said it, and then they went to another tab.
Yeah, because they're just listening, right? What is there to see?
And they might even switch back, and they might pay attention for another second, or they might watch the whole thing. But with these new technologies, especially Snapchat, it's like they require that button to be on the screen.
Yeah, short attention span theater.
Short attention span theater. They gain more attention because they force you, if you want to enjoy this video.
Physical connection.
Physical connection. It's like, we have your attention for this period of time. And we're not asking for much. We're asking for 6 to 9 seconds. As opposed to, what are we into, like an hour now?
Yeah.
Hour and a half? So it's like, and the other thing that we talked about before the show was the idea that the only difference between some of the productions I've been involved in recently and this is that there were a lot more people involved, there was a green screen behind me, and there were great lights, like expensive lights, and a really expensive camera. And everything was captured, and if it wasn't captured perfectly, they stopped and we redid it again.
Right.
And again, and again, and again. As opposed to this, where like if we mess up something, it's okay. You know, it's like the production value is different. But
yeah, we had whole episodes where we lost 20
yeah,
minutes, and I had to narrate. This is where John disappeared for 20 minutes. Yeah, right.
Right. But that ease and the relative reliability is the innovation. You know, the fact that bandwidth is at a rate where we don't have to worry so much about it. The cost is negligible. There's no cost to licensing.
Right.
And the platform is there. We don't have to pay for a server to serve it. We don't need to get a domain to be able to point to it. We can still do all those things. You can go on SeanPetrosky.net and you can point to this video or embed it. And as for anybody who is not paying attention, it might as well be your video as opposed to YouTube's. But that's all, like all those problems were solved. Whereas before, we had to solve all those problems individually.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really great, I think it's a great time. And, you know, video has kind of been waiting in the wings for so long. You know, I remember as a kid in the mid-'90s, early '90s, you know, video phones were like, that was the future. That was it. You know, I had a friend whose father was suffering from cancer and was in extensive chemotherapy and had to be away from the family. They had an AT&T video phone in their home. I remember just being like, this is the pinnacle of technology, you know, at that point in time, video over a regular phone line, you know, and we are well beyond that now, but still video is not as ubiquitous as it should and can be, and I think we're kind of on the cusp of that now.
It could very easily be, and you know, it's still a little bit of science fiction when you're watching a movie and a call comes in, and instead of a phone ringing in somebody's pocket or a phone ringing on the wall, it's the TV.
Meanwhile, anybody with an Xbox One can have that happen with Skype, you know what I mean?
Exactly right.
It's just not enough people use it. And that's one thing that drives me crazy. Like, I love Skype. I think Skype is amazing.
Right.
But nobody uses it. So I don't have anybody to use it with, so therefore I don't use it.
Right, and the only reason that we use this for our platform as opposed to Skype is because if I wanted to share my screen, for example, that would be an additional cost in Skype. But, you know, it's also not a compatible, there's lots of arguments for Skype, such as the video quality.
Right, that's why Twit TV uses Skype for their remote broadcasts.
And they have had hosts on their shows, like Jeff Jarvis, who is like, I am not using anything but a Chromebook. Ever. And so he, in order to use his Chromebook on This Week in Google, he was sending them a Google Hangouts feed, and they had to do whatever they did in order to bring it in and act like it was a Skype feed.
Right.
And they hated it because it added a lot of complexity to their normal Skype set of connections. And to the point where I think that they even forced him to go back to Skype because it solved a lot of problems for him.
Yeah, I think there is also, too, there's a Chrome Skype app now as well, so I think that probably makes it easier.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, Microsoft is, like I said, supported the Chrome. You know, I have a OneDrive integration in Chrome and Outlook.com. I mean, they're glorified icons, but they're available in the Chrome store, and there's support from Microsoft in the Chrome store. So
yeah, I'm definitely going to have to look at that. But I have to say, I mean, since the last time we spoke, Microsoft has done so many interesting and open-minded things that it's very hard for me to say anything. I want them to continue to go in the direction they're going.
Yeah, I mean, even though I've left Windows Phone, my love for Microsoft, and even though I still don't have an Xbox One, I'm still PlayStation 4, my love for what Microsoft does is exponentially greater than it was before.
And by the way, let's talk about HoloLens.
I'm kind of been ignoring HoloLens, and most of the virtual reality headsets, Oculus Rift, the Sony one, I've been ignoring them on purpose.
The Samsung, you could actually use the Samsung one.
I know that. I know it. I know all about it. But again, these headsets, it's reminding me of my birthday in 1992 when I went to this place called Exhilarama in Voorhees at the Echelon Mall, where they had laser tag and roller coasters and arcade games. And they had virtual reality games where you stood in this thing and you put the stupid helmet on and you had, dude, it was 92 and everybody was saying virtual reality was the future. It's 1992 again. It's 23 years later. I'm not there. When I can go to a GameStop and buy an Oculus or a PlayStation headset and there's a game that I have to have, then I'll start talking about it. But
yeah, how far away are we from having a pair of glasses like this that just do all the things that we're talking about?
we're far away.
Do you think so?
Yeah, we're far away. We're at least five to 10 years.
If I don't know, especially with Hololens, I mean, if we could make it so that it was just, like glass, but not silly looking. No?
We're not there yet. There's a lot of work we got to do.
All right. Well, I think when that happens, when glass looks like this, we're there. We're done.
Well, everybody said when the glasses look like that for 3D, we'd be there too, and look what happened to 3D.
Well, 3D is kitschy. I mean, it's cool if I'm in a theater and it's a theater experience and blah blah blah. But it's even in HoloLens. If I can play Minecraft by going like this, Ooh.
Yeah, listen, I agree with you. If all I got to do is wear regular glasses, sign me up. And I'll probably wear one of those stupid helmets also, but
I would like to try the helmet at least.
Yeah. But again, like I said, until they're on the market, readily available, and I can go to a brick and mortar store and get one for an affordable price and the experience isn't shit. There you go. We just got our explicit tag for this episode. I'm not buying into the hype. I purposely am ignoring all of it because it's all hype right now.
So in regards to brick and mortar, which, from what I understand from all the tech blogs, brick and mortar is going to be dead, later this year.
Sure.
How do you feel about drone-based delivery being approved for testing by the FCC for Amazon?
So go ahead. Let's do it.
Okay.
Let's test it out.
So I'm not as worried anymore about the shotgun scenario where somebody, is drinking too much one day and sees a drone flying across and they just decide to shoot it down.
Right.
I'm more worried about the political aspect. And I'm also a little bit concerned, like I have this vision of, in the same way that if you look up in the sky, you might see planes crossing,
Yeah.
Imagine if there was just like a sea at, between, let's say, 2 o'clock and 4 o'clock of like everybody's lunch being delivered, or I'm sorry, 11 o'clock and 12 o'clock, everybody's lunch being delivered. And it's like you walk out around lunchtime, it's like...
Well, like I said, I'm fine for the tests. I didn't say I'm ready for it to be a regular, everyday part of our life.
Do you have any complaints about the idea?
It's got to be done right. We got to have the right regulations in place. We got to have the right safety measures in place. Just like driverless cars. Dude, do you want to talk about a technology? I feel like we're getting off track here, but...
This is customer service, man.
Driverless cars, I'm first in line for the driverless cars.
Is customer service, but the drones are definitely customer service.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying is that I'm all for driverless cars, but this more so than drones. But my attitude for driverless cars is the same as drones. Let's get the safety right. Let's get the regulations right, and then I'll get on board.
All right. Well, I think your heart. The place in your heart for safety is met with driverless cars in a much more straightforward way than drones.
Maybe.
I think somebody's going to lose a finger before anybody gets hurt with a driverless car if the driverless car is given the opportunity to control it.
Yeah, I get it. All right, let's do our back of the book here. Let's wrap this up because this has turned into a 2-hour epic here.
All right, so anything going on for you that you want to talk about?
I do. I want to give a shout out to an app. I feel like maybe I talked about it a while ago. I don't remember. I wanted to talk about an app called Telegram. It's a messaging app. It's open source, high security messaging app. I've been using it for probably over a year since it launched. I've gotten tons of friends of mine to adopt it. My dad is using it with me. It is just continually evolving and changing. I don't know if you're a WhatsApp user. This is blows the doors off of any chat
I've
app.
tried WhatsApp. It's not, of course, I'm like a Hangouts user because I'm Google centric, but I'm listening.
I mean, I have Hangouts on my phone. I use it with certain people, but the people that matter in my life now are all using Telegram, and they're using it with me. And when people start to use it, they realize how amazing it is because of, again, it's open source. The app is available on any platform you can think of. There's even a command line version that you can run on a Linux box. And like I said, the security is very high. Telegram.org. I strongly recommend everyone, including you, John.
I'm going to look at it. I'm going to look at it.
Yeah, please do. I want you to. I have it on every. It was on my Windows Phone devices. It's on all of my Android devices. I have a desktop version I run in Windows. All of my Android nerd friends, my Linux nerd friends, all use it. It's people love it, and I would, and it's all because of me, and I'll take credit for that.
So is it its own protocol, or does it pull in other protocols?
No, it's its own. I mean, it uses open source security protocols for encryption and transmission,
Yep.
but it's not XMPP or Jabber or anything like that.
Okay.
It's its own thing. And like I said, all the source code and the technology is on their website. You can vet it yourself. It's good technology, very excellent encryption and security. And the feature set it offers for sharing files, photos, your GPS location. I mean, it's incredible. They're always updating it and adapting it. There's new features coming out all the time. I love it. It's an incredible platform, and it's a great time to be a part of it.
I'll definitely check it out.
Please do.
I appreciate the recommendation.
Sure. What about you? Oh, go ahead.
I have an app to recommend to you, but you may already be a user of it, and it is a Google-oriented survey application. And the benefit of which, I remember a long time ago, you telling me something about something like this, where if you filled out a survey, you would get some cash as a reward.
Yep.
This is a Google Play reward-based app that anybody, I guess, can submit surveys to for a price. And I get a survey probably every week that gives me somewhere between 25 cents and $1.
In Google Play money?
It's Google Play money. So I have probably bought $25 in apps that I would not have bought otherwise.
Or you could use it with your Google Wallet, right?
Yeah, it's Google Play money. I don't think it can be transferred to my wallet.
Okay.
But I bought books, like I bought Ready Player One, and a couple other really great applications that I never would have spent the money on, but because it was essentially just the effort of answering questions, and the surveys are usually short. It's things like, would you consider yourself an outdoor type person? And if you answer yes, then
Google Opinion Rewards, is that it?
Yeah. Google Opinion Rewards.
I'm downloading it right now.
Yeah, you'll love it. I love it, and I have made a lot of money off of it.
Good. Thank you. I'm all for that.
All right, my friend. Well, it has been such a pleasure to get to talk to you, and I think we need to follow up with like a lunch so that I can get some Qi chargers off you. And
Yeah.
me.
Before we do that, though, I just want to next episode that we do. I want to talk about. I want to get back to. We were I feel like we're a little tech centric, consumer centric today. I want to get back to the service. I want to talk about a company called Wink, which is a partnership between GE and Quirky that makes home automation products. I am firmly invested in the Wink platform. I want to talk about it. I want to talk about their service, their support. They are an incredible company. I want you to know what they're doing. So our next episode, I want to talk about Wink in a way that we used to talk about companies back in the early episodes.
Sounds great to me. I'm excited about home automation. I think that we are just getting started in innovation in between Internet of Things and smart hubs and all kinds of things that are going on in that realm. So I'd love to talk with you.
Good. So our next episode will be about that. And yes, we need to get together and exchange some Qi chargers because I'm sitting on a bunch of them and I got to get rid of them.
All right. Well, you'll have lunch out of it for sure.
All right, good. All right, man. It was good seeing you, and hopefully we won't wait 12 months for the next episode.
Nah, we'll make it quicker for sure.
All right, good. Good seeing you.
Thank you. Talk to you soon.
All right, bye.
Bye.